the Lakers are in Memphis. LBJ with a shout-out to Hall of Famer Dennis Rodman on his sweatshirt. No Rodman for Russell Westbrook, but he's feeling good. Russ is rocking the overalls on the road. This is a return to Memphis for assistant coach David Fizdale, who coached the Grizzlies for 2 seasons. Take that for data. It's one of my favorite lines ever. It's the first game of a back-to-back for the Lakers as they take on the Memphis Grizzlies. Tip-off coming up at 5 o'clock right here on Spectrum Sportsnet. As we say hello and welcome to Access Sportsnet Lakers, brought to you by your Southern California Toyota dealers. I'm Allie Clifton, joined by the one and only Hall of Famer, Big Game James Worthy, 5-time champ, GM, and head coach of the LA Sparks, Derek Fisher. Mike and Mike will join us here in a few minutes. But first, before we get to tonight's action, D-Fish, I know when the schedule comes out for the NBA, it is like the greatest day of the year for me because I know my life over the next 9 months. The W released their schedule today.
Yes.
I know you're excited.
Now I understand what my life is going to look like next year in 2022. So really excited. Appreciate you mentioning.
Heck yeah. Can't get here soon enough. At least for us. I know you got work to do.
Correct.
But with that said, let's turn our attention to tonight. The Lakers enter this matchup with the Grizzlies, coming off what some would call their best win of the season. They got some big performances from the 360 trio of Bron, AD, and Russell Westbrook against Boston. LeBron an efficient 30-5. A solid double-double there for Anthony Davis, 17 and 16. And Westbrook a steady 24 points, 11 dimes. So like I said, some say it was their best big game. Your reaction tells us that you agree from the other night. You continue to trend. If you forgot what it was, your quote post-game might not be as sharp as they need to be, but still sharp enough to?
Did I say beat that Celtic ass or something like that?
All in all, you loved the performance.
Yeah, I did. And, you know, all the post-game celebration was set up by none only than Cedric Maxwell, who continues to, you know, haunt me on Twitter and always talking trash. They won in Boston. He hadn't let that down. So I knew I'd have the last word. But the Lakers, I think, you know, when you're losing, you know, in sports or life or whatever, you know, you have a lot of time to think about, you know, what you need to do to get back on track. And I think the Lakers just decided that they've been hearing about what they need to do defensively, third quarter, all that. And I think, you know, they just decided to go out and get it done. And I think the effort on the defensive end is where they decided to, you know, put their mindset and also correcting the third quarters. I think all along, they've been getting used to each other. Westbrook finally breaking out, playing his game the way he can play without turning it over. I've obviously getting LeBron back, but then the supporting cast, you know, Monk, Ellerton. I think they're chipping away at getting used to one another, and I think that the win against Boston, even though Boston was slightly shorthanded and, you know, really didn't have one player really, you know, scoring, it still was the Celtics and the Lakers. And regardless of who they were playing, they played the type of basketball that they're going to have to start to play if they want to run off 4, 5, 6 in a row.
To your point, though, Boston had been playing really well going into that matchup the other night. They had won 6 of their last 9. And Fish, I know we've all had rushed expectations for this season, but it appears that, like Big Game is saying, they're slowly starting to hit a stride. Are you seeing that?
Seeing improvements for sure. The schedule's always going to present different opportunities along the way. You know, when someone asked, you know, if I was a betting man prior to the game against the Celtics the other night, which way would I go? Without knowing statistically what it was going to look like, I said I would bet on the Lakers. Because if you wear a Lakers uniform and you lose to the Clippers on Friday night, and then you lose to the Celtics the next game,
got some problems.
You got a problem. so just collectively, like Big Game just mentioned, from a pride standpoint as a team, I think they're continuing to come together, going through shared experiences of winning and losing as a group, with more of their guys out there on the court and available. And then lastly, I'll mention, of course, as a coach, what about a little practice time if you got a few days between 2 games?
Amen.
Right?
Yes.
Where you can work on some things and tighten things up on the court that don't always transfer when you're just doing it through film sessions and walkthrough. So I think that combination of factors led to a good performance against the Celtics. We'll see if they can bring it back tonight.
Which, as we know, the schedule just didn't allow. They were playing every other day, and the age on average of this team. They got that practice time. For the latest on tonight's matchup, let's get you live to Memphis. Lakers reporter Mike Trudell is standing by with more from the Grindhouse. Ooh, in all black. I see you, Mike.
Hi, guys. Welcome to Memphis. Thank you, Allie. So, look, with Frank Vogel today, I want to start him just by, thankfully, Allie, not talking about injuries, which is a good thing at this moment, but just how the Lakers played against Boston in a couple of areas where they were really successful, points in the paint, and then also just the way that they rebounded the basketball on both ends of the court throughout. So here's Frank Vogel talking about that and how much the lineup may have had to do.
In terms of on the glass, I think the biggest way to, control your own defensive boards is to contain the basketball. So I think that was a part of it. I also think we had an intention to double team less, keep us out of rotations as much as we've been in, and that also helps you on the boards. Those are probably the two biggest factors.
How do you see some of that translating over to this Memphis team? A pretty different look from Boston.
Yeah, obviously Adams is one of the best offensive rebounders in the game, and they're a great paint attacking team. The containment piece is is one way to try to minimize damage on the glass. They had 18 the first time we played these guys. There's an element of throwing size out there, and there's an element of using your speed to keep the ball out of the paint to help yourself on the glass. So we're looking at both of those.
Frank, I know we've talked so much about lineups this year. Are you at a point where you want to kind of see something for a little bit now, or are you going to keep potentially mixing and matching?
We'll see you 30 minutes before the game.
Hey, Coach, this is the second time you played this time against Memphis. Totally different team. So how do you prepare them, and how do you use what you played the first time against this in preparing for this new team, pretty much?
Yeah, well, it's obviously very different without Ja, and credit to Coach Taylor for doing a wonderful job. Just with the next man up and getting these guys to play at a super high level when you lose your best player. I think Taylor Jenkins is one of the bright coaches in this league, and this stretch of their season is indicative of that. They're different because you don't know where the attack is really coming from. They got 6 players in double figures over this 6-game stretch, and they're all playing with confidence. They're defending at a super high level, and that's the reason they're having a lot of success.
All right, guys, there's Frank Vogel. Now, one thing that he just got thrown a curveball, they're going to switch the plan up just a little bit probably because Dillon Brooks is now out. They found out just about 10 minutes ago, health and safety protocols. So no Dillon Brooks in addition to no Ja Morant for the Memphis Grizzlies tonight.
Thanks so much for that update. It feels like health and safety protocol is the storyline this season. Have a good one there tonight, Mike. Guys, I do want to talk a little bit about the Memphis Grizzlies. I would say they're one of the most underrated teams in the Western Conference this season, but where they are in the standings right now, Fish, you got the Lakers looking up to them, sitting at number 4. They had won 5 in a row without Ja before dropping last night that close one to Dallas, but you can't take this team lightly.
No, you cannot. I mean, none of us would have won the bet if somebody would have asked us after free agency, all of the moves the Lakers made, if 25 games into the NBA regular season, the Memphis Grizzlies would have a better record than the Los Angeles Lakers. Nobody would have won that bet, except for maybe an avid Grizzlies fan. So you do have to give this team a lot of credit. Taylor Jenkins, like Frank Vogel said, is doing a great job with this group. They're clearly responding well to his voice and his staff. They compete hard every night, led by Dillon Brooks in terms of competitiveness. He's out tonight. Ja Morant is a talent that's extremely gifted, going to be a future all-star and Hall of Fame player on a night-in and night-out basis. So not a team you can take lightly for sure. Tonight's a great opportunity, though, for the Lakers to just go in and make this easy work, get this road trip started off the right way. No Morant, no Brooks. This team should be no problem.
And, big game after the performance in which you just had against your rival in the Boston Celtics, or any team in general, you don't want to follow it up with a lack of urgency or mentally not being there. You want to put a statement in a stance on this one.
You do, and they're missing 2 players, as you guys just mentioned, but Memphis showed last year that they're more than just Ja Morant. They're a really well-coached team, and really when you find teams like that, they have a tendency to continue to play